It is my honor to present a gentleman I've worked with for so many years. Not exactly one of the most stylish individuals, but I certainly think you'll like his vocal stylings. Ladies and gentlemen, Uncle Yo.
Thank you. Good evening, Crystal City. How are we today? Alright, general screaming works well. I would have also accepted, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking about my health and well-being. You can tweet that later on. My name's Uncle Yo. I'm a geek-specific stand-up comedian, which means I only go to anime, video game, and role-playing conventions. I don't know why either. Art school. Enjoy that, Mom. Have that on your conscience. I only talk about video games, I only talk about games, I only talk about cosplay, I only talk about nerds, I only talk about failures and weirdos and dweebs and geeks because we took over America years ago. One of the big things that I love cosplay. I love hosting these masquerades, I love coming to the masquerades, I love coming to see how people are going to do, like Poker Face. You guys were there for the Mudkip Lady Gaga? Secret fact, Gaga, huge Macross fan. She saw Shirley and said, I could do that. So yeah, oh sorry, I have to apologize. No silver tie, I actually left it in Manasses. It's an actual town in Virginia. Look it up. I'm from Manasses! You have to talk to your mom about the birds and the bees. That's not how it's supposed to go, honey. Oh my lord. But I love cosplay, particularly America has had a very proud tradition of cosplayers because, little be known, cosplay is a big part of the American tradition. If you've ever been in a costume while doing a play, cosplay! A lot of people are into it. Mummers, big into cosplay. Drag queens, big into cosplay. The KKK, famously. Yeah. Crazy Kentucky cosplayers. What were you thinking of? I'm not comfortable with you guys. I mean, one of the first experiences of cosplay is actually part of American history, but they obviously don't call it cosplay. It was, I guess it was called the Boston Tea Party. And like most cosplays, it was done really last minute. It was just a group of guys really pushing the boundary on racism. And what did they do? They got on a boat and they threw a bunch of tea into the harbor. And the next morning, every Boston fisherman had his day at work like a Stephen King novel. I'm sorry, but even if you give a Magikarp enough caffeine, it will mess you up. It's down there on the floor. Once I evolve, you are all dead. I am so tossing right now. I found a piece of paper. Maybe it's just me, but anytime I love dressing up as anything, particularly the Japanese. I love doing the kimono, I love doing the samurai outfit, I love walking around with the bokken, with the sandals, and anytime I see an Asian kid cosplaying anything particularly Asian, I always think that's cheating. Because you can't get away with it. Just tell us you're from a really conservative family. We will give it to you. My parents are straight from Japan. We do not believe in cultural assimilation. Nor the Industrial Revolution. Nor America. They don't think they've left the boat. They think it's all a dream. They're just being incepted. And it's interesting. You see them dress up in a kimono, you see them dressed as samurai wear, and it just looks like they raided their grandmother's closet. And that's not really cool or edgy. It's apparently only cool and edgy if I raid your grandmother's closet. Because breaking and entering are presumed. So next year, if you want to prove yourself to be a hardcore cosplayer Asian kid, come to next year's AUSA cosplaying my grandmother. Curls, moo, lipstick smeared all over your teeth, and you better be carrying a pot roast. But then I know you care. I think one of my favorite experiences I ever did with cosplay, I had a couple of friends that would follow me to conventions, Shelly and Steve, and they always did Team Rocket. Classic Jesse and James Team Rocket. Something I know! I hope he talks about Fruit Loops on my feet next! I know, right? Big fan of the Pokemon face, and they were with me outside of a panel, framing the table that we were talking at, and I finally cracked the joke. You guys have been trying to capture Pikachu for what, 15 years and it hasn't worked? James, when are you going to commit to something? Unbeknownst to me, Steve crosses over to Shelly, drops on one knee, pulls out a Pokeball, and pulls out a rock type. And it was super effective, Jesse fainted. That is one of those grand, fantastic moments. I love seeing all of my friends that grew up with me watching games and playing D&D and growing up on anime. We're growing up. We're starting to have kids of our own. And we're not the crazy people. Like, we're not going to name our kids after anything particularly anime, except maybe the middle name. My friends just had their baby. They named him Jack. And I begged and begged to make his middle name Harkness. Big Torchwood fan. But still, down the road, he's going to come up to us. We're going to be playing PS5 and still playing DDR in like our wheelchairs and our breathers. He's going to come by. Dad, where do babies come from?
And asses.
Oh, crap. No idea, dude. Wikipedia. Alright, I gotta do this. It's our time. Sit down, little Vashkench and Sephiroth. Let me tell you a story. You see, when a Japanese schoolgirl reaches a certain age, he begins developing feelings of attraction to a deadpan, emotionless boy in her classroom. And she begins showing her affections to the Japanese tradition of stalking. And after collecting enough locks of his hair without his notice, she takes it home and puts it on that life-size sculpture she's constructed of him out of rubber cement and unread Inuyasha manga. And then, one spring day, she stands opposite the boy she likes and confesses her love on a wonderful spring day when the cherry blossoms are falling, or feathers if you're reading a Clomp manga. I don't know why, birds are always molting when they fly over the seas. She stands opposite, and she looks down at her feet and she blushes. She waits for a 2-foot-tall sweat drop to appear on the side of her head, which I believe lets her transform into a magical schoolgirl to fight off giant robots. I don't know. And she says, I like you! Which I believe is the Japanese equivalent to putting out on the first date. The boy, now being completely emotionally held at hostage, stands perfectly still under the assumption that her vision is based on movement, like the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex. They are now dating until he beats her father in kendo, I think. And then months go by, and after long nights of texting on 2chan, long nights on karaoke, awkward silences, and hand-holding, he takes the young girl into his arms. Shoot, and tentacles spring from everywhere! They begin choking and fondling her like a South Korean man with a hug pillow smothered in miso-based chocolate and Cheetos to StarCraft 2! Because in South Korea, their national bird is the hydralisk. And after they have had her filled with every orifice that they can possibly find and drill into that, they suspend her 5 feet, spread eagle by the throat, ever so delicately above a final rising tentacle that I can only describe as the horrible hybrid between a styrofoam pool noodle and a cactus. And then after dangling her, screaming, no, no, teacher, I'm only 15, I'm only 15! Dang! I'm sorry, what was the question? Babies. No clue, ask your mother. I think it's a cult with cosplays. I think it's one of the most popular games in history. No, not tentacles, actually. This is the transition into the other bit. We're done with tentacles until the burlesque show. Some of you are so disappointed, drained, and still dry. Take your time. I used 3 Ds. That's consonants. Read a book. We gotta talk about Kingdom Hearts. We have to. Because Disney and Squaresoft, who by definition have my childhood by the balls to begin with, they've got together to make the most epic contradiction in history. Now, a couple years back, you might remember when Disney bought out Marvel Comics. And a lot of us said, no, they're gonna censor everything! The Punisher's gonna walk around with Nerf guns and they're gonna try to censor Deadpool, and Deadpool will hurt them. They're gonna make it so Magneto can only work like aluminum cans. They're gonna censor everything. Beast from the X-Men will be replaced by Beauty and the Beast Beasts. It will be a very different show. We were terrified of it, but think of it now. Because Disney owns Marvel, Kingdom Hearts 3, you can have a party of Sora, Wolverine, and Deadpool. Now, just imagine being in the room when they pitched Kingdom Hearts initially. So, we're getting the two biggest producers of any media across the generations of video games. So you guys remember those guys, Cloud Strife and Tifa Lockhart? Well, they're back. And they're battling Sephiroth, who has summoned a darkness so grand it will absorb the entire multiverse. Oh my god, you get those in your party? They're not even cool enough to be in your party, because in your party, you get Donald Duck! I'm sorry, what? You get Donald Duck! The guy who hasn't worked since the 1940s? Yeah!
Useless Duck is useless.
Does he get a berserker rage? No, dude, he's your spellcaster!
Derp! Derp!
What spell incantation could Donald Duck get right? I don't even think he could pull off magic missile if his life depended on it. Lightning bolt. Donald, I need cure.
You broke me. I'm done.
Are you reading from the Necronomicon there, Donald? What magic are you casting?
You forgot his epilepsy.
That Egyptian? Get away from me! But the fact that you can have Sephiroth on screen with Donald Duck, and it is not some horrific Photoshop competition on 4chan. This is canon. It's like Kratos, Martha Stewart. Either way, it would be covered in lemon and oregano by the end of that. But think of it! It's like they're setting me up for the punchline of my career, and I don't know what to do with that! Think of it! Sephiroth and Donald Duck walk into a bar.
That's the punchline.
It's like Scarlett Johansson is spread eagle on the bed, but every time I touch her, she vomits. There's nothing I can do with that. Donald Duck and Sephiroth walk into a bar, and the priest and the rabbi say, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And the priest says, maybe Sora. It's funny because it's canon. Try it! Donald Duck and Sephiroth walk into a bar and, I don't know, slaughter Hannah Montana. I don't know how this works anymore. I don't know how this works anymore. While they're making a torture and rape sandwich out of Justin Bieber. I don't know. It's weird, it's wacky, there's nowhere to go with that. But if you really pay attention to the story behind Kingdom Hearts, if you're not just into it to project any sort of yaoi mentality behind that, it's a great game. There's fantastic psychology stuff, a lot of questions of identity, place in the universe, in the multiverse, a lot of Jungian universal psychology, and Goofy is your tank. That's like having Scooby-Doo solve the Kira mystery. Take off the rubber mask, and Ryuk was old man Yagami all along. Hey, Al, would you capture Kira for a Scooby snack? Let me turn off Maroon 5 for a minute. Kingdom Hearts, an incredible contradiction. Like, I'm supposed to take Sora seriously, flying around in his little gummy ship. I'm gonna save the world. Gotta get the checklist together. Let me think. Clown shoes. Yep, got those. MC Hammer high water pants. Oh yeah, I got those. A bunch of unnecessary straps and chains that make it look like I've simply bought out Hot Topic. Oh yeah! Mass form, Hot Topic. I'm a manager now. Spiking my hair till I look like a Super Saiyan. Don't you? Don't know why the hair has to be this tall. It's like a puffer fish. What are you trying to attack? I don't even know. I don't know how to take that game seriously. I almost refuse to. But you gotta admit, Disney is brilliant when it comes to marketing. Oh, yeah. Because in neither game do they really let you play with Bambi or Kate Sith. That's for the spin-off. That's bonus stuff that you have to pay extra for. Imagine that Kate Sith is running through the forest just as Sephiroth pulls an arrow on Bambi's mother. You're booing because you don't know how delicious venison is. Get yourself knights of the round and we'll talk. But they're brilliant. They have all these characters that they never get to use. They have the Disney princesses. They can make a spin-off. They can make a Disney princess fighting game. They could do another Smash Brothers Melee. Snow White could be... Alright, this is now the mood lighting, so we're all getting delicate, soft. Let's just sit down for a minute. There we go. About to take you into my arms and... Well, tentacles, really. That's all I can really promise. I name my cats after Trigun characters. Oh my god! Are we talking about my parents? these characters that you don't get to use in Kingdom Hearts. Like, you never get to use the 7 dwarves, not really. They're short guys. You can put all 7 of them in one party slot. And because it's a game made in Japan, they can probably combine into a giant mega dwarf or like a regular sized dude. Named like, I don't know, Bronzebeard Gurren Lagann. And they never let you attack with 101 Dalmatians. I would love that. You're fighting Sephiroth and suddenly the whole screen just fills up with black and white puppies! Wave after wave of puppies! Sephiroth is acting they're so adorable! But their blood is so delicious! It's not stopping me. You know what you call that? Disney Zerg Rush. And that's the fun of the Kingdom Hearts joke. What else should we have fun with this? Oh, that's hilarious. Video games are getting intense. They're everywhere. Everyone out there has a smartphone just so they can keep playing Angry Birds. Only and specifically. You see this 1,000 times a day. They pull back a finger. Everybody else is busy busting their balls playing Brickbuster on their Blackberries. Because they're morons. Video games took over, and they tell you you can't learn anything from a video game. That's not true. First game I ever played was Duck Hunt. Suck it, PETA. The controller is a gun. That game taught me to shoot geese and hate dogs. Because mothers will always tell you, don't play first-person shooters. They're too violent. It's like, I'm fighting an army of the undead. I only have a shotgun. You're limiting my options, Mom. We can't negotiate. You want me to lie down, let the zombies take over? We just got TiVo. Don't make me give that up. We're like 5 years late for that joke, aren't we? Because I learned about the birds and the bees playing Tetris. Wait to see where I go with it. Because you start off Tetris sort of the same way, right? You're alone in your bedroom, got some music playing in the background, the lights are turned down low, you spend a lot of time with your hands just sort of in your lap, and you've got all these pieces and the colors, and they're expanding and twisting around. You're not really sure how you're playing the game, but you kind of get good enough to have a sense of what... So you bring in a friend, don't you? You bring in a friend, and the two of you sit next to each other on the bed, kind of with your hands in your laps, trying to figure out what is going on, and then you eventually reach to a stack where nothing is really going to work because the stupid little 2 and the Z isn't going to fit in the square block. You just have this one gap that nothing is going to fill, and then this giant stick starts dropping from below, and you turn it vertical, and you slam it down, and you feel great, the screen clears, and your score doubles. And everybody feels alright after that. Pong taught me about dating. Because in Pong, you just argue with the other person, and you know it's like a real relationship, because the other person is keeping score. Being married is like playing Pong against someone whose paddle takes up the whole screen. What are we doing for New Year's? My parents, your parents, you know what? You just win. Fine. Done. That's what happens when you date them. I got to go over to my girlfriend's families. Now, her parents are straight over from China. So I got to have a very different kind of Christmas than I'm used to. First off, her mother kept calling me Gaju, which I learned meant nice boy after that. And then her grandmother kept yanking at my head saying, Maju Gaijin, which apparently meant sheephead boy. I let it slide. For breakfast, we would do like rice porridge, like hardcore Chinese. Like there's no tipping at all allowed in the household. But I realized hardcore Chinese cooking has the same cooking sensation of zombies. 1, the rawer the better. 2, whatever you capture has to feed 20 people around the household. Reach right in with your hand. 10 seconds of boiling water, it's good. What about diseases? It's good. And they just use every part of the animal. They're like the freaking Native Americans. Anyone know what beef tripe is? Yeah. It's a white spongy thing that is actually the interior lining of the stomach. So you're eating beef stomach. If I wanted that, I would just eat grass. I don't want grass. I want the cow. I don't want the part of the cow that's been touching the grass. I want the part of the cow that's been running away from me. Which is why I never understood the Twilight novels. The whole point is that you've got a vampire sitting around all these high school girls, and at any given moment he's gonna freak out, go lestat, and eat them like a real freaking vampire. But all he can do is just stare and stare and stare. And he goes up to Bella, I like you most because I can't read your mind, because there's nothing between her ears, you idiot! I'm just gonna follow you, Bessie. We're gonna be friends with this one. I finally stopped reading Naruto. I felt like I had to. I waited 2 years of filler arcs for them to restart the series with Naruto Shippuden, which apparently was just, I don't know, change of clothing. And I waited 2 episodes, and more filler arcs! And there were too many characters for me to keep track of anymore. I had enough trouble keeping track of all the characters in the first Naruto series. You couldn't keep track, there were too many of them, so I thought, what would the Animaniacs do? So I made the Naruto name song. And it's easy, I can teach it to you guys can follow along. This is easy. Naruto, Yamato, Sakura Sai, Kakashi we call her sensei, Bite Guy Rock Lee, Tenten Neji, too bad I don't miss Sasuke. I've got Shino and Ino, Konkuro, Tamari with all of the Akatsuki, like Kisame and Sasori, Daidara, Tobi, and let's not forget Itachi. Shikamaru and Shoji and Haku, Shizumi and Asuma, Kuroi and Proctor, Anko, Zazamochi, Gamabota, da-da-da-da-da-da, filler. Hokage the first, the second Hokage, the third and the fourth are all dead! We wanted Jiraiya, too much of Pariah, we got Tsunade instead. Orochimaru and Gaara, Kabuto Hinata, Jiroku of the Sun of Five. With Tayuya Kimimaro, Sakon Hinomaru, too bad nobody survived against Akamaru and Kiba Iruka, that guy from the Chonin exams, any ninja from the movies, and the Byakugan, Shadow Clone Sharingan, Shidori, Rasengan, Primary Lotus, I'm done. Which is obviously not the speed it has to run in my head. My head, it has to go a lot faster because I have to keep up with you guys providing that little Dance Dance Revolution beat y'all got going there. Naruto, Yamato, Sakura, Sakura, Kakashi, we call us the same Mike, I wrote the Tenten Neji, but I don't miss Sasuke, Shino, Ino, Konkuro, Tamari, and all of the other guys who like these, sorry, Miss Sasori, you guys are throwing me off. Shikamaru and Choji Haku, Shizune, Asuma, Kuroni, and Proctor, Anko, Zabuzabuchi, Maka, Mabota, Hokage the first, the second Hokage, the third and the fourth one, we wanted to ride too much of Pariah, we got Tsunade instead, Orochimaru and Gaara, Kabuto, Hinata, Jiroku of the Sun of Five with Tayuya Kimimaro, Sakon Hinomaru, too bad nobody survived, Akamaru and Kiba Iruka, the guy from the Journey exam, any ninja from the movies, and the Byakugan, Shadow Clone Sharingan, Shidori, Rasengan, Primary Lotus, we're done! You guys stick around for the Judges Award. You've waited long enough. It's time to find out who the winners. I'm going to turn it back over to your MC. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you, Anime USA. Love, love, love.